Hello and welcome once again to New Junction. In today's episode, we dive straight back in to the station build. And, excitingly, I managed to get my Hornby 9-car Azuma running again. Stay tuned and find out how. So welcome back to the layout. Now, the station is probably going to be one of the most prominent parts of the mainline area. Now, in particular, as this is basically a 4-track loop, the station is where the play value is going to be had on the mainline. So I wanted to put a lot of effort into this, and who doesn't enjoy building a station? So the paint from last week is now all dry, bone dry. So as we wait for this train to go past, the paint is now bone dry, so it's time to once again remove the platforms, and this time the station building, because we're going to go to the next level of paint, which is where we start to detail up the platforms and the building, etc. And that's really where it starts to come onto its own and start to look like something you'd see out in the real world. I'm also going to tackle the wall, and as you can see, we've got one bit already done as a test piece. So let's get on. So I've turned the trains off so I don't get too distracted now. I'm going to start on the walling. Now, this is a test piece which I think's come out rather well, and here we have a bare piece as it comes off the 3D printer, straight out of the kit. Now, there's a few things you need to do to this first. The first one is to cut up these little bits, which, if I can show you on the camera, so you basically take the top off. They indicate the stanchions, which actually go into the ground and secure the walling to the sort of groundwork behind. So I'm going to trim these off, and I think, they can go anywhere, they can go on all the fascias, but I think I'm going to put them like I have on this one and every other one, just so it doesn't look too busy, but it's just enough detail to make this look a bit more interesting. One thing to note though is on either end of the scene I'm going to have land sort of sculpting up again, just to make sure that on the end pieces I need to put these higher up as though the land's following it, because they wouldn't be underground. Right, got to cut these down and then stick them on with some Rocket Rapid. Let's go. There we go. As you can see, they are now in a rough order. They're just going to need sort of 10 minutes or so just to fully dry nicely with that glue. So I think what it'll give me time to do now is just varnish these pieces up, which go on the tops, which replicate the concrete tops to these pieces. Now, you don't need to use them if you don't want to, but I would like to. So I'm going to get the varnish out and also varnish the station. Ooh, it's all getting real. So the same as in last week's video, I'm using the Rustin's clear varnish, which I'll mix up and just brush on and let dry onto these pieces. And also I'm going to commit and actually do it to the station building. Now, as you can see, it comes apart very easily. And the main areas I need to focus on are all the areas I'm going to paint, which is everywhere but the top of this roof, believe it or not. But I need to pay pay special attention to all the edges that'll be all the edges that'll be painted, because I don't want them sort of absorbing the paint too much. But if you're using one of these kits, you have to be very careful because the two columns here are attached, and you don't want to make the mistake of putting the kit down when it's not on the body, and you might have a little accident. Now you may have noticed I was using the big brush for the concrete tops. I'm actually going to go down to a finer paint brush now for the building, because I don't want to disturb any of the brickwork or any of the smaller parts. So luckily rail-stuff.com, which is where I get all my paints from, which I'm using for the station, etc., as you'd imagine, also do brushes as well, so it's quite handy. Always pick yourself up some. Now, there's probably better brushes to do these things with, but for now, I'm going to get on, because there's lots of intricate spaces, and I don't really want to get in all the gaps with a big old paintbrush. So that's those bits coated now in the varnish. Now they'll need about 30 minutes to become touch dry and 2 hours before I can prime them up with the first layer of primer. So while these are drying, it's time to go back over and see how the walling's getting on. So it's looking good here on the layout. These bits are now solid and ready for priming. So as with the plywood, I'm going to use the Paint Factory Colour It Quick Drying Primer with the matte finish. Now again, you can use any primer you can get your hand on. I just find this easily accessible, particularly as it's sold by various model railway places. But again, all comes from railstuff.com. Links in the description. Not affiliate, but it's handy to know. And I go through this like there's no tomorrow when I'm doing things like this. So, less waffle, more painting. So while those bits are drying outside, I'm going to pass the station platforms on to other me, who will go and prepare those for the next phase of painting. Now, while other me is doing that, I want to briefly talk to you about an offer that my viewers, you at home, have been offered by the digital magazine people, Readly. Now, Readly has over 8,000 titles between magazines, newspapers, etc., in all guises, which you can subscribe to for a low monthly fee, and you can have access to all of them. So Readly, in fact, have offered my viewers a 2-month free trial, which is linked down below in the description, or you can scan this QR code and you can follow any magazine title you wish. So I in particular follow, obviously, magazines like Railway Modeller and Model Rail, which come out monthly, but also I follow things like Heritage Magazine, Heritage Railway Magazine, and in this particular month we've got a lovely picture of Mayflower at the East Lancs Railway, which is particularly handy because Hornby have just released one. So I'll be bookmarking that and saving that to go back to that and recreate that rake here on the layout, which of course is one of the many features that Readly offer. So, as I say, you can have a 2-month free trial because you're a viewer of this channel, and again, link down below in the description. And of course, it's not for you, you can cancel any time with no cost to yourself. It's worth a go. Right, let's see if other me is ready back at the painting table. And here we are back on the painting table. Now, this time, now the tops are bone dry, I'm now going to reapply the tape to the other side of the edging stones here, because I'm going to be lightly painting these in. And for the colour, I'm going to be using this Tamiya Buff paint, which is XF57. And of course, I'm going to be using more of the Tamiya tape. So, time to, as I like to say in these videos, less waffle, apply the tape, and we'll get some paint down. And just like that, that's the first coat done of the ridge stones on the platform. So I'm going to let them dry before doing a second coat, and then I'll remove the tape midway through the drying process on that layer. Right, I think it's been enough time now that I can go back to my walling, which is currently outside in the sun, and I'm now going to give it a coat of the Rail Match Dark Rust. Of course, this is the one I used in the test piece, excuse me, and it's gone on really well actually. I really like it. So this is the next job. But while I go and do that, in the meantime, I've got an Azuma that won't run. Let's go and see if we can get it to work. So you join me once again on the fiddly yard side of the layout as we return to Azuma Gate, as I'm dubbing it. Now, on the back of last week's video, we had lots of helpful suggestions. I did mention, I called it liquid lead, but I meant liquid gravity, as I later found out. Now, this is quite literally lead weight, lead little balls, which you basically glue into place on your models. Another one which was suggested, which seems really obvious in actual fact, but this is motorcycle wheel weights, and they've got a sticky back to them, and they come in 10 and 5 grams per weight. So we're going to try and stick them into the model. Now, as you can see, I've got some kitchen scales. Now, I have earlier weighed, this is the rear car, but I have earlier weighed the Azuma. As it stands, the Azuma power car is 490 grams, which isn't too light, but it's also not particularly heavy. It's not ridiculous. Just to put that into context, the Acura Scale Class 37, now Acura Scale locos are designed to be heavy, so they can pull prototypical loads. You could say, I don't want to say unusually heavy, but they are heavy models. Now the Class 37 is 684 grams on there, so almost 200 grams heavier than the Azuma power car. So it's time to make the power car heavier. Right, so this is the power car. I have obviously taken the top off, That's no good to me right now. So these are the innards of the power car. Now, as you can see, it's got a solid weight here. Now, I've obviously unscrewed that. I was just sizing up to see whether this could be replaced with some of these. However, you'd probably get the same amount of weight in because it does fill the space. So I'll screw that back in. Because this is a rather expensive model and it's currently yet not customized and not weathered, I always like to leave them as they come where possible. So I won't be cutting out anything, and I definitely, in the short term, don't want to be gluing any of this stuff in yet. So this is plan B if this doesn't work. So I'll put that to one side because we're not going to use that just now. What I will be doing though is I'll be looking at the model closely, and I can already see, you can see here they've got sort of handily shaped areas which will be perfect to put these weights in, both front and back. And of course, the underside where the chip goes, you've got speaker space. Now, I'm going to put some weights in here. I'm going to try and see if I can get about 100 grams into this to see what happens, to basically get some of the way to the Class 37. Now, it's interesting because the actual model does have a die-cast chassis, and then, of course, you've got the weight here, so you'd think it would be nice and heavy, but obviously not heavy enough with the combination of things, the rolling resistance, etc. So, I'm going to unpack these now and see where I can stick them. So, I have managed to get just about 100 grams, or 100 grams dead on. I've got two of the big pieces in the area here, two small ones in the middle. I had to keep this space clear because there's a capacitor in the top of the body. We've got a smattering at the back here, and then underneath in the speaker compartment, I managed to get a full 50 grams. They're double layered. So we're at 586 grams now, which is 4 grams short of the target. That'll probably be the screws that hold this on. Right, so I'm going to put it all back together and, well, see if it'll pull the train. As before, it's pulling away, which is always a good thing. It's a good start. Anyway, let's see what happens when it gets to the curves, which is where it struggled last time. So yeah, you see, it's definitely struggling on the corners. However, it is now managing to pull itself round. Then it's carrying on as normal, but that's definitely not Speed Step 90 material. Let me just make sure my points are correct for it coming back. And we'll follow it down. Ooh, sorry, kick the tripod. And again, it's definitely the corners. Now these corners, they're 8 foot radius-ish, they're probably 7 foot really. So they're definitely wider than second radius, which is what these models are quoted for. But again, it's just struggling pulling now. There'll be extra drag on the corners, of course, which will be why it's struggling at this point. And I can just see a wheel set has come off, which is my track's fault, which won't be helping it at all. So it's definitely an improvement, but it's not the final finish we wanted. So I've just stopped it there. So that's 100 grams. Let's see if I can't squeeze any more in. Right, so body's off again, and I have doubled up the weights on the front sides here and then added this stack. So that's the first, what I would say, real sacrifice, because you'll be able to see them behind the windows, really. But I'm not too fussed by that because I haven't had to really modify the actual loco, if you know what I mean. I haven't cut anything away or anything like that. So another 75 grams. I'd have liked to have got another 100 in, which would have been these weights, and I probably could stick them on the tables, etc. But we'll go with this for now and see what it does. And here we are. Now, in the interest of fairness, I have had to take one 10-gram weight out. So the new total weight of the Azuma is 649 grams. getting on to being a proper weight now. So I'm putting that back up to speed set 95 again. It will take a bit of time to speed up just because of the chip that's in it. However, I'm not bothered by that. I just want it to pull its train. I should probably also say at this stage, while it's creeping around this corner, ever so slight spins, but much, much better, he says. That wasn't the train, annoyingly. That was that coach again. Just derailed. That'll probably be a back-to-back easy fix. It's definitely getting better. However, it is far from perfect at this particular moment. It does still slow down on the corners. Now, it's definitely the rolling resistance on the coaches that's the issue. So whether it's the contacts for the lights that are a bit too forthcoming when they press against the wheels, also the axles themselves are just in a plastic sort of axle, as it were. There's no brass bearings or anything, so it doesn't encourage free rolling, although the 5-car units don't have this problem. So the next step for me would be to either look at doing something which would start to mean taking bits out of the loco, which I really don't want to do, the power car. And I fully understand that by adding the weight, I'm also now adding new pressure on the motor. So I wouldn't expect Hornby, believe it or not, to honour any warranty if, say, the motor went pop, because it's my fault, it's now 100 grams heavier. So really the answer initially should have been to go back to Hornby and say, sort this out. But I think it's probably inherent with the design of having the 9-car train. But no, it's definitely better. So I think my next step, my go-to now would be to oil up, lube up the wheels, as I've been trying not to do, but I'll go down that route first. And then if that doesn't work, it's onto more weight and sticking Deluxe Materials liquid gravity in all the crevices. So, tune in next time and we'll see if we get a lovely free-rolling Azuma. Right, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't happy with pausing again and being defeated by this. So what I did was I took the top off and absolutely crammed the weight in there so basically all the seats are now covered in the power car with weight up to the roof, and I've added another 40 grams or 45 grams into this unit. So it now weighs 720 grams, which is 35 more than the Acura Scale Class 37, for example. And as you can see, it's now bombing around the layout. I won't say with no trouble at all, because it does show signs of slowing down on the corners. However, it's a million miles off what it was. So I do think with a bit of lubrication on the axles, I think we'll be getting there. So no, I'm happy now. And just to clarify, I know a lot of you will be saying it's not fit for purpose, send it back, etc., etc. The model itself is really nice and something I desperately wanted for my layout as soon as they came onto the East Coast Main Line. So I don't see the lack of weight as a reason to sort of go on a witch hunt against the Hornby Azuma myself. So adding a bit of weight, I'm absolutely no problem with doing a bit of tinkering to get it running like this. And like I say, I'll add a bit of lubrication to the wheel set still, and then hopefully we'll get this running spot on. Right, but for now at least, I'm happy. It's running around on my wibbly wobbly track. So poor thing, we'll put it back in the sidings and we'll get on with some painting. And just like that, we're back where we started. So the station is back in position. Now, I've done a couple of things to it since you last saw it. I've now taped off the edging stone so I could put the white line in. That's the first of many details on the surface, but again, that's got to dry. You can see the station building is just sat in its primer. That's now going solid. The problem with all these layers is really they need 24 hours before the next layer, which takes its time. The good side is, though, that the scene is coming together. So you can see the wall is now painted and in, and I think that looks quite good for a new-looking wall. Again, the concrete tops have been primed. They're just drying and hardening, and they'll come off and be painted as the scene goes forward. And just quickly, if I may, one question I got a lot last time round was why have I left all the little holes, laser cut holes in the surface of the platform? Shouldn't I have gone over them with some polyfiller or something before painting? Now, normally the answer would be yes, but this time I want to go to town with this platform. So I want things like sort of lights and things like that, and manhole covers, which I'm going to put into it. If I covered them over, my thought process was I'd worry that I would hide the support. And if I drilled through it, putting a manhole cover into it, I would have a saggy station. I'd have to do it all over again. So I've left that, and once those things are in, I will then go over them all and paint them over and make them disappear. So don't worry, it's all in hand. But right, that only leaves one question, which I require your feedback for. So it's this section over here where the road is. Now, it's causing a bit of a dilemma in the sense of what do I do about it? Because originally I wanted the road to go down, and it could go across the heritage line and then around, which would result in 2 road crossings because it has to come back, because I wanted, in a perfect world, to have a fallow car system or something like that. Another option that's been suggested is actually the road comes up and actually comes to a bit of scenery on the top deck on this side, so something like a substation, it could be a Network Rail car park, that kind of thing. How do the staff get to the station, or workers get to the, say, possible pilot siding, things like that. So, yeah, that was a discussion I was having with Dylan, who put the idea of the road going up into my head, and then it's gone from there. So any feedback down below in the comments, please. It's very much appreciated. So all that's left to do is say thank you very much for watching. Thank you extremely to the channel patrons and YouTube members for the support. You know who you are, and I will see you very soon in the next one, because progress is continuing. Right, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.